For over 2 years since its announcement, fans have been waiting with eager anticipation to finally get their hands on The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. What they probably don't know, however, is what exactly they're getting into. The game is clearly changing many conventions of the Zelda formula, with its story, its gameplay, its open world, you name it.
But how else are you going to play the game without desired controls? Whether you're going to play it on the Wii U or the Nintendo Switch, one thing is for certain, you're going to have to learn the controls once again. We'll explain what we mean by that on this episode of Inside Breath of the Wild.
Ever since The Legend of Zelda made the switch to 3D, the control scheme has pretty much been the same after every installment. Press A to roll, B to attack, L to lock on, custom inventory buttons, you know the rest. Even if you're playing Skyward Sword or the Wii version of Twilight Princess, at their core, Nintendo made a formula similar to Ocarina of Times. And honestly, who can blame them? It was a good system to begin with, so why change it? Many assumed Nintendo would keep the same formula with Breath of the Wild, or, as it was called back then, Zelda U, and just slap an open world on it. Of course, that wasn't enough for former director and series producer Eiji Aonuma.
I got a chance to play the 35-minute demo at E3 this past summer, where Nintendo went all out to promote the game. As a Zelda fan who's played and beaten all of the 3D games, except Majora's Mask, please don't hate me, I was shocked to find how difficult it was to play Breath of the Wild at first. It honestly felt like I was playing a completely different game. We'll talk more about the control scheme later on both Wii U and the Switch, but for now, let's talk about menus, and not the kind you find at Olive Garden.
When Nintendo unveiled the Wii U at E3 in 2011, a tech demo for a potential Zelda game was running in the trailer. The video showed the Wii U gamepad displaying the prolific item menu, since mapping items to controller buttons is such a big part of Zelda games. The idea was to swap items on the fly without having to pause the game. This was utilized perfectly in the HD remasters of The Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. You could at any time map items to a specific button without having to go into an item screen. You would think Nintendo would use this in the new Zelda game on Wii U, but that does not look to be the case in Breath of the Wild.
Now, the item screen resembles that of an action RPG like The Witcher 3, and it doesn't look like you'll have any way to access it through the gamepad screen. The E3 demo did not allow the use for the touchscreen at all, and it was only used as a map for the controls, which most people needed anyway. Why abandon the touchscreen inventory that was teased over 5 years back and with 2 HD remakes? Better yet, why did Nintendo switch to a more traditional layout? That can be answered by the terrible pun I made about 3 seconds ago. Since it's confirmed the Switch will not be a second screen experience like the Wii U was, Nintendo designed the game with the Switch in mind, one of the huge reasons this game was delayed twice. This doesn't mean the Wii U version will completely abandon the gamepad screen, as it could serve as a handy map, but that's really about it.
Like I've stated before, I haven't beaten all of the Zelda games, but I'm all too familiar with the 3D ones. Upon playing Breath of the Wild, it was anything but familiar. Not to say that's a bad thing, it's great. The change in controls plays a huge part in The Legend of Zelda's evolution, and I welcome a different playstyle. Here's what the new controls actually are. Starting with the face buttons, on the Wii U versions of Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, you would roll with A, attack with B, and map any items you want on Y and X. But in Breath of the Wild, you attack with Y, sprint with B, jump and climb with X, and A is only used as an action button. Crazy, right? Now, the lock-on button remains ZL, but you press L to use an item, ZR to shoot arrows, and R to throw a weapon? Look, my Zelda instincts told me to press R for the shield, but then I kept throwing my swords all over the damn place. You'll be able to switch between weapons by holding right or left on the D-pad and using the right control stick to select what you want. Same goes for special items, only this time it's up.
The key item in Breath of the Wild is the Sheikah Slate, allowing Link to access a variety of powers, including but not limited to magnesis and cryosis. Some of these powers, especially magnesis, involve the usage of gyroscope aiming. A lot of elements in the game use gyroscope aiming to their advantage, such as aiming your bow or tagging enemies and areas through the slate. You might think a gyroscope is gimmicky, but it was actually a benefit in the HD Zelda remasters, and even non-Zelda games such as Splatoon, it made aiming that much easier and less of a hassle. It wouldn't work in a game like Call of Duty, but is welcomed in Zelda games. Now that we went over the controls of Wii U, let's go over what they could be on the Switch.
Before we get into the controls, we need to discuss one thing. The Nintendo Switch was a huge influence on the design of Breath of the Wild. Think about it. We were led to believe that the Zelda game on Wii U would feature touch-based inventory utilizing the gamepad screen. There is no solid proof that Nintendo planned to incorporate the feature in Breath of the Wild, but judging by the remakes, it should be crystal clear that this was their intention. So, why would they scrap the touch controls? Simple. They had to develop a Switch port and design both versions around it. The Switch is not a two-screen experience, and the touchscreen was practically useless in the E3 2016 demo. But, like we said before, we may use it as a map in the final version. Anyways, onto the Switch controls.
We imagine that the controls on the Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons and Pro Controller will remain largely similar to the Wii U's. It is worth mentioning, however, that the right control stick is on the bottom instead of the top, much like an Xbox controller, which many claim is more comfortable. This may affect the placement of some buttons on the right side, but we seriously doubt it. Even though a gyroscope hasn't been confirmed on the Switch, Breath of the Wild may have proven its existence. When using runes like magnesis, you can use the right stick or the gyroscope to move any object and yeah, make a catapult. We still can't get over that. You can use the right stick, sure, but the gyroscope makes things a heck of a lot easier. And if the 3DS had a gyroscope, why wouldn't the Switch? While we don't have too much to say about the possible controls on the Switch, one thing is for certain. The new console was a major influence on the Wii U version's design, so we can expect a similar control scheme on the Switch.
Based on what you just heard about Breath of the Wild's controls, are you excited for this new style of gameplay? Or would you rather Nintendo go back to the ways of the old? Post your answer in the comments section below. Also, be sure to pick the topic for the next Inside Breath of the Wild. Let us know in the comments section below.
But regardless of how the Switch does or does not do, I will be visiting the Switch demo event here in Tokyo in January, so look forward to my thoughts then.
Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to comment, like, and subscribe to Commonwealth Realm if you want to hear more news on Nintendo Switch, Breath of the Wild, and more Nintendo franchises. We all hope you have a fabulous day.
Until then, this has been the Commonwealth Realm, and we will see you, gals and guys, later.